Armchair commanders, we call the shots. From our living room thrones where the action's hot. We're the generals of fiction, the masters of war. In silver screen battles with buttered popcorn. Armchair commanders, armchair commanders.
All right, welcome to the Armchair Commanders podcast. My name is John.
And I'm Jack.
And I am not the third cousin of Frank Sinatra.
I might be.
So we can set that record straight. Yeah. This week we're doing Devotion. That was probably the funniest line in the entire film, though.
Man, I've been going about talking to women all wrong. Who would have thought lying to them was the key?
We look just alike, don't we? I don't sound anything like him.
Not as good of a singer. It would have been funny if our hero Ensign Brown would have tried that.
Mm. He was going for higher quality or higher value targets, if you will.
That and, well, he was married.
Yeah. Something they didn't really hit on, so here's the thing with this movie. I didn't know jack shit about this.
Me neither.
So I had to do quite a bit of Googling after the fact. Did you know he, married his wife in secret because, of Navy regulations?
Really?
Yeah, I think she was, part of the women's auxiliary deal for the Navy.
And that's verboten?
Apparently.
Huh. More you know. I don't know dick about the Navy.
Or dick about anything.
Yeah, really not much I do know about. But here's what I do know is that you're not third cousins with Frank Sinatra, or else you would have introduced us by now.
I know. That's why I said I'm not.
Or you're being modest to throw me off.
How would I introduce you to a guy that's dead?
Carefully? I don't know. A simple hi Jack, this is my cousin. Frank meet Jack would have done really well.
You know, him meeting Liz Taylor on the beach and then getting invited to a swanky casino definitely is a different take on the shore leave or Liberty Pass that we've seen in other movies.
Mm-hmm.
Because in Sands of Iwo Jima or stuff like that, it's always we got a 48-hour pass. Let's go out on the town. Everybody gets drunk and then somebody gets married. Instead, they're playing craps with, a famous movie actress. So that for me, that I thought that was fun. Not to mention, the actress that they got to play Elizabeth Taylor in this film was fucking spot on.
Really?
Yeah, just Google it, dude.
Well, yeah, I know I was agreeing with you. It's just, I can't remember who it was.
I don't remember the name of the actress either, but she was definitely the right casting.
Serinda Swan plays Elizabeth Taylor in the 2022 film Devotion.
What other films is she in? Or has she kind of cornered the market of being a Liz Taylor actress?
Where the hell does she even have a swimsuit? Hold on, let me do some Googling.
To Google.
Serinda Swan is a Canadian actress, but go away, I already donated to you, Wikipedia. It's a Canadian actress, best known for her work in film and television. Carla Dixon in the second season of Reacher. She was in Marvel's Inhumans. She also portrayed Anne Bancroft in the first season of Feud. Oh, she was Zatanna in Smallville.
I have not seen any of these things.
Me neither.
Oh well.
All right, let's see.
Other than that, this movie is fucking sad as shit, dude.
Yeah, it's a real fucking bummer.
I always Miranda always gets super mad at me because, as you might recall, I didn't cry at our wedding.
Yeah, you did. You cried like a wussy.
No, but Papa Jerry did.
Oh yeah, that's right, he did.
You know what my favorite part of that evening was?
What?
I remember um our buddy Tim, who's not a fan of you. Anyways, Miranda, like when we were sitting down and eating dinner at the reception, she's like, "Your dad was crying, like ugly crying, like had like a handkerchief and everything." And I'm like, "Oh, I didn't see it because he was like my back was turned towards that side." And Tim looks at me, he's like, "What'd you say?" And Miranda said it again. He's like, "Ha, what a pussy." Men having emotions.
Men.
No, but so I didn't cry at our wedding, which kind of made her upset. But
If you asked, I would have
this
kicked you in the nuts.
this is the third movie in my entire life that has made me cry.
What was? All right, you gotta give me a list now.
So the first movie I ever cried at was Finding Dory.
Uh huh.
I
I can
was
see that.
I was overcome, like it was just such like when Dory gets reunited with her parents, it was like such a happy moment. Like, don't at me.
Yeah.
And then number two was the end scene in The Whale, starring Brendan Fraser.
Yeah. I didn't see that movie.
Stellar performance. You should really check it out.
And then it was this movie.
Yep, this one. It wasn't until the very end of the movie when he got awarded the Medal of Honor and he's telling Jesse Brown's wife, he's like, the last thing that he said was that he loved you. And I'm like that just like, it wasn't necessarily the content itself that broke me. It was just the way that Glenn Powell delivered it. It just felt very real, and it just like it struck a nerve for me, and I got a little tear welled up.
Manly
Some
tears.
terrific acting on his part.
Oh yeah. Glenn Powell's eyes are really tiny.
It's an interesting observation.
I'm sorry, I just have to say it. His eyes are just small, so small.
I like Glenn Powell as an actor. I think he does a great job, but something about him smiling makes me want to punch him in the face. Like when he smiles, it just instantaneously makes me feel full of rage.
God damn. So I was doing some reading, and it sounds like they gave our friend Brown here a Viking's funeral with napalm.
Yeah, that was the other thing too. So that was part of why I went and started like looking up stuff after I watched this movie, because Miranda watched this movie with me, but she didn't like watch it with me. And so she noticed when I started to cry. She's like, "Are you fucking crying?" Like, because she wanted to give me shit again because how dare I cry at this powerful movie and not our wedding. But because she was playing on her phone during this movie, so she like quick Googled it herself and like read the Wikipedia article, and she's like, "Did they show all the things that this Wikipedia article said happened?" And I'm like, I don't know. What does the Wikipedia article say? And she's like, that they fucking bombed him with napalm and said the Lord's Prayer over the radio. I'm
while
like,
doing it.
I was like, no, but that should have been in the fucking movie.
Hardcore, man.
That would, although I can see why they didn't, because that like this was rated PG-13, and that definitely would have brought it up to the R rating.
Yep.
Hard R.
Not the phrasing I would have used, but yes, a hard R rating.
They also left out the part where Glenn, like Ensign Brown, like before like passing out, like we see the scene where Glenn Powell is like just banging away on the side of the airplane with an axe and it's doing nothing. Something they left out of this film that apparently also happened was before he lost consciousness, he like asked them just cut my legs off and pull me out that way. And I was like, Jesus Christ, like this movie. Let's get something straight. I really enjoyed this movie, and I think it is a good movie. But I'm astounded at all the little things that they left out that would have taken this movie up another notch. Like, don't get me wrong, I can understand wanting to do like a PG-13 movie, but was going for that PG-13 movie rating worth it at the expense of those like super powerful details?
They very well could have gone rated R. I wonder what the difference in money that would have made at the box office.
Was this 21 or 22?
22.
I think 22 was still kind of on that cusp of theaters were still really struggling because of pandemic and all that. Because didn't Oppenheimer came out in 23, right?
Yes. Barbenheimer.
Yeah. So I could definitely see. I don't know. I don't remember exactly what like the COVID restrictions were like in 22, but I remember when we talked about Oppenheimer, we did that review basically the same week it came out. Something we talked about during that review was the fact that like this was the first time either of us went to a movie theater in like years, and the place was like packed with people.
Yeah.
So I can imagine that like box office it probably didn't do well, but I think they went the like I remember seeing the like previews for this on like YouTube and whatnot, and it being released to theaters. But I also remember like it having a very quick like DVD, like they really pushed the DVD release of this because I remember it being at like taking up a large section of a shelf at Walmart.
Oh, yeah?
Maybe it was just my Walmart, but you gotta do what you gotta do when the movie theaters aren't performing the way they usually do. Same reason that like Tom Hanks released Greyhound to Apple TV.
Oof, yeah, I just looked at the cash for this. Budget 90 million, box office 21.8 million.
Oof.
God Damn.
That's a fucking hit.
So another elephant in the room that I made a mental note to mention for this movie. Do you know why we don't get very many Korean War movies?
Because we lost.
I wouldn't say we lost. It was just put on pause forever. And
we ended in a tie.
it was a very open-ended ending. It was, very, neither side of that war walked away from the tables completely satisfied, which some people say is the sign of a good compromise, and I say they're fucking full of shit.
We went in there with the goal of maintaining South Korea as its own sovereign nation, and it still is. So, you know what? That's a fucking victory. Let's call it good.
Yes, but we also pushed the North Koreans within like 20 miles of the Chinese border.
Yeah, well,
MacArthur,
I'm sorry that the fucking Chinese army decided to throw like 1,000,000+ guys at us.
I was getting that, goddammit. And previously, China literally told Korea. I can't remember where to find what the quote is exactly, but the leader of China at the time basically said like, "Don't ask us for help. Like we don't care if you're on the ground getting your teeth kicked in. You're on your own." And then MacArthur very loudly and publicly stated that he wanted to use nuclear weapons on the Koreans, and he wanted to use nuclear weapons to form an impenetrable barrier of radioactive wasteland as the
Yeah, he
border.
wanted
And then
to nuke the entire Yalu River.
and then China was like, okay, now it's our problem. And then they marched 1,000,000 people straight into our ass.
Thanks,
And yeah,
MacArthur.
and then the next couple years of the war is just repetitive shit, trench warfare, stiff borders, sorties back and forth.
MacArthur is
But
probably one of my least favorite generals in history.
massively overrated.
Massively
But
overrated and a fucking idiot, like very full of himself. Like,
but where was I going with it? Oh yeah, the reason why we don't get very many Korean War movies isn't because of that. It's because after the success of MASH, the Chinese government really came down on Korean War media, like heavily censoring it or outright banning it. And a lot of movie theaters make their money from Chinese markets. So
yeah. It's also the reason why the remake of Red Dawn turned Chinese troops into North Korean troops.
yeah, real world politics affecting movies. Like the newest Top Gun, nobody was really sure who the enemies are because they never stated in film.
Well,
But
yeah,
it's very clearly Iran, right?
I I so here's the thing. Is geographically, yes, I would agree with that. That it seems like an Iranian border, or like kind of Pakistanish vibes. Um, but the fighters they're using in Top Gun 2, God, I gotta Google it real quick. They're either Russian or Chinese 5th gen. Yeah, they're Russian Su-57s, which
Which,
is
given
like
how ubiquitous that is,
that's the Russian equivalent to like the F-22.
which a lot of countries field that, don't they?
Actually, fun fact: we don't sell the F-22 to anybody.
Well, no, that's not what I was saying. I was talking about the Russian plane that's used by a lot of militaries, right?
Oh yeah, the Russians sell their shit to anybody.
I got to make that buck. Can't fight capitalism with an empty bank account, ironically.
But there's something to also be said that, like, Top Gun 2 kind of gives North Korea vibes as well.
Yeah,
But maybe that's
but
just me.
like this, the few enemy soldiers we do see are like out of focus or in a distance away or have their faces and insignias covered.
Yeah.
Very convenient.
They're from the notorious country Durkistan.
Man, I can't wait for Top Gun 37, where the copy of the engram of his digital brain is uploaded to the AI of a computer and he has to fight against Martians in space.
In space.
Toppest gun.
How's he going to ride his self-driving motorcycle then?
Well, easy. He just jumps his consciousness into it and drives it that way.
Does it like hologram a rider on top of it?
No, it just trips people out who watch it. They think a ghost is driving it.
So if I'm not mistaken, it took me a very long time to realize basically the entire movie, because obviously I didn't know the story. So the fact that, Glenn Powell's character gets a Medal of Honor at the end, I shouldn't say it was a shocker to me, but this makes our second Medal of Honor film where the entire time I feel like the movie is set up and is premised to be like the story of Jesse Brown, which Jesse Brown should have a story. He was the first. Well, I mean, there's debate over. He was the first openly acknowledged and known African American to become a naval aviator. Like, there was a guy in World War II who became a naval aviator who was black, but the Navy didn't realize he was black, so people kind of argue over whether or not that counts. But Jesse Brown was the first black guy that the Navy was like, yeah, he's black, and could still became a pilot. Because, like, this movie takes place, like, almost, like, really shortly after Truman integrated the armed forces. And both the Army and Navy really drug their feet when it came to that. So, like, I really thought that this was supposed to be like a Jesse Brown film, and, Glenn Powell's character was just supposed to be like, that's his buddy, and like is meant to be kind of like a foil to witness Jesse Brown's struggles. I don't know. But instead of it being a Jesse Brown movie, it's like a slow burn. Turns out it's actually about, Glenn Powell's character getting the Medal of Honor after this incident where Jesse Brown dies. And how do you feel about that? Because I felt a little off because of it.
So you feel off about it because the movie shifted from being about Jesse to more about Glenn Powell.
Yeah, like, I got the feeling that this is what the story was supposed to be about, but instead it's the story is just building up to the event for which Glenn Powell's character receives the Medal of Honor for, as opposed to being like the story of Jesse Brown, if you will.
Yeah, I kind of see where you're coming from. Like, far be it from me to question a Medal of Honor, though. So
no, like, Medal of Honor, like, I think Medal of Honor stories make for great movies. Like, I thought The Outpost was a great movie. I think Sergeant York is a great movie. We haven't reviewed that yet, but
Sergeant Stubby, pure Kino,
right?
Absolute cinema. But
like, so take for example, you texted me this when you were watching the movie, where you're like, you ever look at yourself in the mirror and just yell racial slurs at yourself? And I was like, no.
Just no, I said yell at yourself.
Oh.
Actually,
Well,
wait, hold on, let me pull up the.
Jesse Brown yells racial slurs at himself.
Oh yeah, do you ever stare at a mirror and chew yourself out and call yourself the N-word? And then it's revealed that he has a little booklet of things that's been yelled at him.
Yeah.
It kind of reminded me, and this is the second time I've talked about this scene in one weekend, so go me. But that scene in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood where Leonardo DiCaprio's character fucks up a scene, and then it shows him yelling at himself in his trailer. 8 fucking whiskey sours!
Fucking punching a couch.
I like every time I mess up, I find myself like saying that 8 fucking whiskey sours, despite the fact that usually I haven't been drinking beforehand.
I only had 4, but who's to know?
You made an ass of yourself.
I think I almost would have preferred this to be like a life biopic of him.
Yeah, I wanted to see more.
And like I still think the Medal of Honor scene should have been in it, but maybe instead of it just being kind of like just like we're there kind of thing, like do the Medal of Honor scene much more from his wife Daisy's perspective. I don't know. I think he has a very impressive life story, and I wish that was more of the focus, especially because in this movie he does a couple of monologues, or like we have that scene where he is saying all of this terrible shit to himself. And then he explains to Glenn Powell, he's like, yeah, nobody thought I should have been a pilot. Nobody thought I should have been here. These are all the terrible things people have said to me. I say it to myself in the mirror as like a coping tool, whatever, like, which FYI to the people at home, my wife Miranda, who's a therapist, said that is, quote, a maladaptive coping tool.
English nerd.
She said that's not a healthy way to deal with your stress in life. But
I really ought to do that cliche more often. Action movie, the nerd character says the space-time continuum waves are collapsing, and then the meat-headed protagonist, in English, Einstein.
But during one of these moments he tells about like, yeah, when I was in flight school during like swim survival day, where they teach the pilots how to swim after and how to like escape their airplanes if they like ditch in the water and whatnot. He's like, they made me do it 10 times, and like
and they like put ice in the water.
They put ice in the water. They put weights in his flight suit. Like they were purposely trying to get him to fail, and he still passed. Could you imagine a biopic with that as a scene? Like,
I can actually. Maid of Honor. What the fuck was it? Men of Honor with Cuba Gooding Jr. That's on our list.
You make a very good point. I forgot about Men of Honor. But Cuba Gooding Jr. has a very similar scene in that movie, and that's such a powerful moment for that film of like resiliency and strength and like determination.
I fucking loved that movie.
But instead, in this film, a guy who I recognize has an impressive life story, who's a very strong individual, is at least for me, he kind of got portrayed almost in this like weak sense, where like he goes through all these tough moments in his life and he overcomes them. And what we see of that is him just like crying and yelling at himself in the mirror. Like it doesn't. Jesse Brown in this movie at the beginning comes off a little bit whiny for me, and I don't think that's right. Like, I don't think it does him justice.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. You could argue they weren't, big on mental health care, especially for colored people in the 50s.
Well, or they're still shocking people for therapy back then. So,
And lobotomizing them, and
I wish somebody would give me a lobotomy.
yeah, electric shocking myself just to feel something again. Which a little okay, way off topic, but this week is gonna be fucking weird for me because I go to work Monday, Tuesday. I have Wednesday off for New Year's Day. Then I'm right back at the office Thursday, Friday. And this past week, I only worked Thursday, Friday, but those 2 days were a fucking meat grinder.
This past week, last week I worked Monday, Tuesday, Friday. And then this coming week, I'm working Tuesday, Friday because of a combination of holidays, my normal time off, and like burning the last of like my floating holidays.
Mm-hmm. Like the time between Christmas and New Year's, which our dear listeners is when we're recording this, it just doesn't feel real. It's so weird.
It's not. I mean, I think everything should just shut down from between Christmas to New Year's. Just like everybody be like, you know what? Christmas spirit. Nobody wants to come back to work anyways. Because like that was something Miranda told me is like, because she went back to work the day after Christmas, and she's like,
same.
I don't fucking want to be here.
Me neither. And
I don't think, other than the corporate fat cats, I think everybody would be down with, okay, Christmas Day through January 1st you have off, and then back to business January 2nd.
Yeah, and we'll just call it fuck it week, because that's what it is, really. Like, everyone's burnt out and tired from the year. Nobody really wants to go back to work between those two holidays. And even if you do make them go back to work, they're not going to be productive. That's just the simple fact of the matter.
No.
And like your wife, I also had to go back to work on the 26th, right after Christmas. And guess who had to check in all of the materials that people sent back over Christmas break? Me. And then the next day, I had to ship out the next books in their request line. All in all, it was goddamn near 250 cartridges I shipped out of audiobooks individually.
It's a lot.
It is a lot, and it was it was busy otherwise too. I was also editing this series of biographies about various governors.
That sounds dry.
It's so boring.
Have you read the book that this movie is based on?
No, I can't read.
Of course.
But so I was at Frank's house over Christmas break because some friends of ours was visiting from out of town, and his daughter was getting ready for bed, and she was walking around with a storybook and says, "Can someone read to me?" And then I was like, "I can read to you." And then she just looked at me and said, "No, you can't read." God damn. I got by a 4-year-old.
They'll do that.
There's no coming back from that either. Like, I can't really think of a comeback.
The only thing that'd make that better is if, like, you told me she did like an up down, like, no, yeah. No.
Looked me over and judged my literacy level from that. But no, I think I've made the I can't read joke to her several times, or at least she's heard me made it and took it seriously. I'm just gonna see how long I'm gonna keep this going. Like, Uncle Jack can't actually read.
That's almost as good as John doesn't believe in dinosaurs.
Yes, but I didn't have the near religious like fucking devotion. See how
zealotry to it.
Zealotry. See how I dropped the title of this movie into this? The fucking crusade you had to convince everybody that dinosaurs weren't real.
I put some work yourself?
in. Jesus Christ. Year and a half, man.
You're as beautiful as the day I lost you.
Why the hell are we doing a podcast about war movies when we can just be doing a podcast about why dinosaurs don't exist and are just a plot by big museums?
Oh, because you'd eventually run out of material on that shit.
Oh no, our cup runneth over. We can just like talk about various
Like each
archaeological.
dinosaur individually.
Yeah, like we like discover, like talk about their discovery. Like, oh, it was founded by Arthur Flem in 1932. The hell it was. They had a Great Depression going on. They couldn't afford to go out on that. That's bullshit.
Arthur Flem, the known alcoholic.
Yeah. Besides, what the hell did they know in the 30s?
Yeah, they just got done crashing a market.
Yeah, dumb bastards.
Fuck, where was I going? On a positive note, I would like to talk about stuff I did like about this film. This is an airplane film, and I'm a huge airplane nerd, and I fucking loved it. Like, our opening scenes with the Bearcats. Fun fact, the Bearcat was made to be a World War II fighter, but it came a little too late. But there's actually, like, kind of a large abundance of Bearcats that still exist. So, like, the Bearcats we see in this film, they're real. And at least one of the Corsairs in this film is also real. There's a lot fewer of those around. But I thought the way they shot the aerial scenes was very well done. Like, it was definitely different from other airplane movies we've seen. Nice flowing shots.
Oh, yeah.
And the transition from real aircraft to CGI aircraft was very smooth. Like, if you weren't paying attention, you wouldn't notice the difference. So I gotta give them props for that.
And, like, I think my favorite shots in this entire movie were the shots where they were going quickly over the water. Like,
like low level?
Yeah, in the beginning there was that shot, and then at that one point they were by the beach, and it transitioned to them at sea, and it like quickly went over the water to the ships. That was a nice little transition. I liked that.
It also, I like the fact that this film hit on kind of like a lesser known thing about the Corsair. Fun fact, the Corsair is Papa Jerry's favorite aircraft.
Hell yeah, Papa Jerry. When's he getting on this?
I don't know. We'll have to find a movie he wants to do. Have to find something that doesn't trigger the PTSD.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we could also sell our souls and actually pick something that triggers his PTSD, you know, just for science.
All right, Dad, we're going back to Panama.
Yeah, fuck you, Dad.
But I like the fact that they mentioned like this little thing. They're like, hey, the Corsair has a really powerful engine. If you give it too much gas at once, like, you're not going to be able to control it. And it wasn't like the very next scene, like some shitty thing happened. It was like they make that comment, and then maybe like 20, 30 minutes later, then somebody dies from that very thing they were explaining. And I'm like, that was a slow burn, but props to you, movie.
And then they get in that argument where he's like, oh, he was in the water 5 seconds before he started criticizing what he did wrong. It didn't help at all. He's like, he fucking knew the rules. Like, he knew you weren't supposed to accelerate. But there's only so much we can do.
The other thing, though, is like, can you really blame him? Is like, I could only imagine seeing that happen would be a very like traumatizing thing. And like, when you just experienced a traumatic event, like, one would argue that your ability to follow normal, like, social norms be like, oh, it probably isn't appropriate for me to say that. Like, He very well could have just been having like an internal thought that became external.
Yeah, and no one's really thinking clearly in moments like these, really.
Yeah, like I don't know. But I also thought like the combat missions like were like despite being like heavily CGI were really like I think it's CGI that's going to hold up for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed it. I thought they were great scenes. That being said, I do have a beef with like the first mission that we see them go on because we see Jesse Brown like break formation and go against orders and like does like a Top Gun Maverick thing and is like hero of the day. And then like later on, him and Glenn Powell get into this beef over it because like Glenn Powell wrote exactly what he saw, and Brown is like, "This is going to fuck over my career."
Mm-hmm.
Which in reality, like, yeah, insubordination is a huge thing that can impact your career as a military officer. But at least from what I can tell, I haven't been able to find something that validates the fact that he did something like that. And also, the movie doesn't do a good job of showing the fact, like, we see two combat missions, and the way this movie frames it, it almost feels like those are the only two missions that Brown goes on. When in reality, the mission that he got shot down, they had already done like a dozen plus missions prior to that.
Yeah, and I even not knowing much about his life and what he did, even I felt like, okay, they're definitely cutting some out.
Also, like, I don't know, this is a petty thing to not like, but like when he crashed, like in reality, they spent like several hours on the side of that mountain before um, Glenn Powell's character left. Obviously, it's like a 2 hour movie. You can't really show that. But for what's supposed to be like the God, what's the fucking word I'm looking for? The the climax of the film.
Ah, yeah, the cum shot
It
of the film.
yeah, it's very it feels very short in comparison to other scenes.
Yeah, it certainly zips along.
Maybe because it's like a high stress scene, it moves along quicker. I don't know, but for me, I think they could have made that scene longer, but it's kind of whatever.
Mm. The part I had a problem with was that dickhead Marine and his buddies being racist and trying to start shit. He's established as one of the antagonists, the bully.
Oh yeah,
And then it shows him in the Chosin Reservoir. One of the coldest war battles US has ever fought, by the way. And he's shooting the shit. Literally seconds after he said, "What if they try shit tonight?" They actually do, in fact, try shit tonight. And then in a later scene, our hero like flies above them and saves them, and he somehow manages to discern that not only is that a black pilot, but it's the very
that's
same
the guy
pilot.
that he punched in France like 3 months ago.
Like, no, fuck you. They wouldn't be able to tell that. Fuck off.
No, absolutely not. I think that was just used for exposition purposes. That being said,
Mm-hmm.
I thought the kickoff to the Battle of Choson was really good. Just like the solitary flare popping up in the air, and then it
Mm-hmm.
like dies out, and then like the entire fucking mountainside explodes.
Yeah.
But I think
what are you drinking tonight?
I am drinking because it's a North Korean film or Korean War film. I decided to go communist route, and I cracked open some Havana Club. Not my real Havana Club from Cuba. There's a local liquor store here that has Havana Club, and it's made in the Dominican Republic, but same shit.
See, I'm drinking the traditional South Korean beer Modelo and eating a traditional meal of a Hardee's cheeseburger. See, I was going to buy some noodles because the Chinese place in Pier sells like packets of genuine noodles from South Korea. And I'm pretty sure I could find some soju, I think that's what it's called, at
Yeah,
either the liquor store or one of the stores around Pier.
I'm excited. I'm going to hit up Korean barbecue for my birthday.
Oh, hell yeah.
Same place that I took you to.
Oh, that was a good place. Good place.
So I'm going to get trashed on some soju. That's what I should have done. I should have bought a bottle of soju for this episode.
Me too. And speaking of Korea, I've been watching the new season of Squid Games.
Oh, it's already out?
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm going to watch the new season. Like, I enjoyed the first season, but I'm also kind of the opinion that I think the first season should have just been like a standalone, like its own, just leave it as is.
Yeah, second season's been pretty decent so far. The one thing that should bear mentioning is one of the antagonists of the new season is a Gen Z rapper with purple hair named Thanos, and his fingernails are painted the colors of the Infinity Stones, and he pops pills during the games, and he says random words and phrases in English, like "What's up, my brother?" Or "Welcome back, everyone."
It's interesting character choice.
Oh, it's great. I love it.
I think before we get to the rating, there was one last thing I wanted to touch on, and I don't know if you noticed it, but racism in this film was done very differently from other films set in racist time periods.
Oh yeah.
So there's obvious discrimination that happens in this film. Like Jesse's neighbor calls the cops on him for bullshit noise complaint, or every like every white person in this film uses the word colored. The only person in this film who actually ever uses, like, I don't want to say legitimate racial slurs, but like slurs, like all of the Caucasian characters in this film were using words that were politically correct of the time.
Well, yeah, they don't want to be racist, do they?
Oh my god. But it still gets demonstrated to us that there's Jim Crow and all this terrible racism is happening when we have Jesse Brown, reciting from his book in the mirror scenes. So it's very much still there out front, this is happening, it's still a terrible time, still demonstrating it's a terrible time. But none of the white actors have to wrestle with the fact of oh, I'm in a movie about a racist time period, but I didn't do anything racist, um, I thought it was an interesting filming choice that the only person in 1950s racist America using the N-word was our one primary black character, which also probably contributes to why it was a PG-13 film. But
well, you heard it here first, folks. My co-host hated this movie because it wasn't racist enough.
Shut the fuck up. I'm saying we watched a couple weeks ago, or maybe a month or two ago. We watched the movie Tuskegee Airmen. Great movie produced by HBO, and that movie had zero compunctions. Everybody was letting racial slurs fly in that film, and it made me feel uncomfortable, but it felt accurate, and it made me realize how terrible of a time and place it was for black people.
So would you say this movie would have benefited from being more racist?
I don't know. It was noticeable to me that despite it being 1950s America, none of the Caucasian people were using actual slurs.
It is a choice. You're right.
Like, they still show white people treating him poorly, but it's like, I don't know. It's not the same. And I don't know how to word that to make it. I'm not advocating for more racial slurs in movies. I'm just saying that this particular movie, in comparison to other movies we've watched, took an interesting choice in how they decided to dole out that dialogue.
Yeah. That dickhead making comments about the circus.
That was about as like edgy as it got.
I'm with the
outside
circus.
of Jesse's book.
Yeah, I'm with the circus. I'm the ringleader. Good to see you brought the clowns. But should we get to putting a rating on this?
I do. Do you have a recommendation?
Cousins of Frank Sinatra or Manly Tears. You know what? I say Manly Tears because this is a landmark movie that you cried during. Actually, before we get to that, there is one movie that I can remember. Well, a couple movies that I cried during. The first,
okay,
I
what
was
movies
watching,
did you cry during?
I'm trying to. What the hell's that one? Lost with Tom Hanks. When Wilson floats away, and I watched that as a kid, I just started bawling and cuddling my stuffed animals, and my dad got pissed at me for crying. And there was another time when I was in college, and I was watching Alexander and the Very Bad, Horrible, No Good Day, and I was going through some shit at the time, and he was having the titular shit day.
And you're like, I've also had a no good day.
And his family just keeps ignoring him or talking over him and talking about how great their lives are, and that hit home, so I started crying. I was alone in the theater, thankfully, though.
Oh, I was going to say, did your dad hit you after that, too?
Yeah, he drove to Vermilion and said, "How dare you cry?" I'm like, "Dad, how the hell did you know?" No. He said, "You giving me lip, boy?"
Any other films?
I'm trying to... if I think of any, I'll let you know, but those are the two ones that stick out the most to me. I
like Manly Tears because Jesse Brown, like, during his mirror scene also has, like, tears running down his face, so... You know what? Yeah. Manly Tears, 1 to 5.
Yeah, Manly Tears. Fuck yeah. 4 out of 5 Manly Tears.
I dig it. What would change this from a 4 to a 5 for you?
I wanted more from it. And we touched on this briefly. Like, we wanted it to either go the full biopic route or just more about the missions that he flew.
Yeah, I could have done with some more Ace Combat, Top Gun type scenes.
Yeah, Danger Zone.
Danger Zone! I am going to give this 4.5 manly tears. I think this is a stellar movie. It's very powerful. Is it? I think it's a bit simplistic in its storytelling, but it is a good story. And
Yes.
I think the fact, like, I think it's a good movie, even though it leaves me wanting more. I think it's because of how good of a story they already presented me that I'm like I want more to this. Not necessarily like something's like super wrong with it. You know, like yeah, there were some issues we touched on, but most of those issues I could not really. I kind of feel meh about them as far as being problems with the film.
Yeah.
So 4.5 for me.
Let us see what Rotten Tomatoes says. 81% on the tomometer and 92% on the popcorn meter.
Go with the audience on that one.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think this is a very solid movie and it didn't deserve all of that. That whole, failing at the box office thing.
I think that was just it
Unfortunate
being a
timing.
victim of circumstance than anything. I think if this was released as a summer blockbuster during not COVID timeframe, I think it probably would have done well.
Gotcha.
Let's see. Just looking up because it's my turn. You know what? Pre or post World War II?
Pre.
Pre. Um. Sorry, we got a long list. Let's do. Let's do Kasari.
Kasari.
Yep, it'll be our first Bollywood film.
Ooh, Bollywood. Hell yeah.
I've been wanting to do it for a very long time, but we kept having I know every time I wanted to do it, we kept having like a guest come on, do like a really cool film, and then like it'd be your turn, and then I was like, man, I haven't chosen a film in a minute, and then I'm like, I want to do something else, and I haven't seen Kasari yet, so it just seems interesting.
Oh, okay, yeah. We were long overdue for a Bollywood movie, so I'm all here for it.
I do know the basic premise of the story, which is uh, Sikh warriors who are under control of the British Army it's the time frame of when Britain was in Afghanistan.
Okay.
So it's a last stand film.
Cool.
And if I recall correctly, it's on Amazon for free. So
All right. Free's the best price.
but do you have anything else?
I do not.
Alrighty. Well, if you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review. The stars do matter. If you want additional content from us, you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, all those good places. Until next time, I've been John.
And I'm Jack.
And we'll see you all later.
Bye.